Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Deen Talk. My name is Omar Yusuf and these are our co-hosts, Sister Fajr Delane and Brother Hamza Ahmed. Today we are going to be talking about a very interesting and commonly debated topic, which is cryptocurrency. Now, there are many analysts and different discussions about this on the financial, economic, and technological level, but ultimately, this is a discussion that has to revolve around our lives, and it does. In fact, the blockchain Capital, which is a capital company involved in this industry, talks about how millennials are willing to invest $1,000 of Bitcoin over $1,000 of real estate by 27%. And so it's a very interesting statistic because it introduces a shift in the way in which we invest. And so we're going to be introducing Brother Azim Butt here, who is he's a very new individual who's interested in this trend and is also involved in it. So can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what cryptocurrency really is?
Sure, Assalamu alaikum. My name's Azim Butt. So a little bit of background about me. You know, I've been born and raised in Northern Virginia. I got a family. We're first generation here, and you know, I'm currently working in IT. And to answer your question, you know, the way I got involved in Bitcoin was actually I was in the masjid one day with one of my brothers, and we were just throwing the idea around. Hey, maybe we should start mining for Bitcoin. It was such a new thing. We figured, hey, it can't hurt. So that night, I actually went on Craigslist and I found a Bitcoin rig from a person on that resided in Tyson's Corner. And that night, I paid $200 for a Bitcoin rig, and I started mining for Bitcoin. And that's kind of how I got started. I did a little bit of research here and there. I didn't know too much about it, like a lot of people today. But I did start getting my feet wet, start to understand how Bitcoin worked, how blockchain technology functions in a network, and how to exchange transactions. So very much where you guys might be today as far as exploration of Bitcoin.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit more about, you know, your process in why you're still doing it.
Like anybody else, there's people that have FOMO, which are the people of the past year that have been seeing the incline of the prices on Bitcoin. However, I feel like there is much more to Bitcoin than just the monetary value. I believe in the technology. We're in a digital age, and there's tons of information being passed through the internet, through the network, and people want security. And so I find that with the blockchain technology, that's what it offers to the millennials. That's what it offers to, you know, humankind in general. And you know, it's essentially in everything that we do today, from our cell phones to our computers to us logging into Amazon Web Services. You know, you'll find blockchain technology there. It's been around for quite a while, and we're now adapting it to finance and currency. And so to people today, that affects their wallet directly. So they're thinking about it a lot more.
Excellent. So after our break, we're going to come back and talk a little more about a deeper discussion on what cryptocurrency is and how we can use it. And so with that, let's go to a short break from our sponsor, Penny Appeal USA.
So as you see here, there's a well being built. The locals used to walk miles to get clean, safe water, but now it's getting built right in front of the doorstep, which I think is a great thing. And you can see the women out here, the men out here, they're very happy to have this here. Please donate generously to this fantastic thirst relief project by Penny Appeal. Donate online.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back again on our discussion about cryptocurrency. So going back to our discussion a little bit, let's start by laying a foundation of what cryptocurrency really is. So can you start us off talking a little bit about, you know, what cryptocurrency is, even before we talk about Bitcoin or any of the different examples of it, what it is and what it represents in our market today?
Sure. So cryptocurrency is it's a digital currency, if you will. It's a platform that people utilize to exchange or barter for goods, right? It has a digital signature. People create value towards this cryptocurrency because of its speed through the network, right? The quicker this transaction can move through the network, the more value gained for that certain cryptocurrency. So you've probably seen Bitcoin, Litecoin, altcoin, Ethereum, and these coins hold different values due to one being the biggest thing is the speed that it moves through the network and the trust around that certain technology that evolves around that certain currency. So that's what gives its value. And that's the question a lot of people have is, how does cryptocurrency gain its value? Why does it get its value, and who does the value come from? And it's essentially adapters of that currency that provide the value to the currency.
So if I can ask, like, what's the advantage of using these cryptocurrencies over normal currencies? Like, why do people try using these over like regular dollars or pounds?
That's a great question, and I think that's the reason why cryptocurrency was created. So in the past, you probably might have sent money back home or have done a wire transfer between banks, and there's large exorbitant fees to move your money around. And what cryptocurrency offers is a platform or a technology where you can decentralize the currency. You can send the currency to anyone you want anonymously, but through a ledger which is checked by a signer and an authorizer, where you can essentially move that money through the network for free. There's no cost associated, and that's why there's such a big appeal behind exchanging funds with cryptocurrency.
Interesting. That's really nice. Like, how do you feel like, what do you think the main thing for this generation, like I know how you were saying like the technology aspect attracts us to it, but why do you think like we're taking this heavy on, besides just the technology? Do you think we're moving into a different age? Or like what are some of your thoughts about that?
Clarify that for me a little bit. I mean, give me a reason why you're interested in it.
Because like, back in, if you say this like 20 years ago, I mean, I don't know, like people really trust that, they barely just started trusting the computer. So like, now that we're more technology savvy, do you think that the more of the youth, instead of just the elders, are like getting involved and have a passion for it?
Yeah.
Because of the time we're in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely has to do with the time we're in. Everything is so digitized. I mean, you can go to Starbucks now and pay for your coffee with your phone, right? It provides ease, right? And essentially that's what Bitcoin is. There's such a heavy exposure now to the internet, right? So I would say 20 years ago, people didn't have that type of exposure. When they would see Bitcoin, they wouldn't understand Bitcoin. They wouldn't understand networks or how point A connects to point B in a hub. It wouldn't make any sense. But today, I think a lot more people are becoming savvy with how networks work, how the internet works, how transaction works. So right now is the economies are setting the primer to get people to adopt this currency. And honestly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
So I know that there's like different ways to get into Bitcoin. You can either invest in it or you can mine it, right? Correct. So like how do you get into it exactly? Like what's the difference between investing, mining? How do you get a hold of this currency, even though it's not tangible?
Sure. So people. You mentioned something at the end. It's intangible, but I'll tell you there is tangibility to it. There are networks that back Bitcoin. There's physical network that backs Bitcoin. There's actually GPUs that mine for Bitcoin. There's people behind Bitcoin that are mining for transactions. So I would tell you, it's a slippery slope when you get into that conversation. But to answer your question about cryptocurrency, about what its use case is. That's your question?
I was trying to say, how do you get into it? Like, do you invest in it, or do you, like, mining? Like, that's a word thrown around a lot. Like, what exactly is that for people that don't?
Yeah, there's a couple ways you can get into it. You can exchange fiat currency, like cash that we have today, and get into on an exchange like Binance or Coinbase, and you can actually buy coin, right? You can buy parts of a coin. You can buy a whole coin. There's, I believe last time I looked, there was 2,000 different coins on the exchange. Or you can become a miner, and what a miner is a individual that has GPUs or computing power that can verify the hash code on the network. What these people do are verify the transactions through the network. So you have miners, like millions of miners out there that are looking at this code that's passing through the internet, and they're verifying if this transaction is coming from the original source. So that gives you a sense of security and encryption of the cryptocurrency that's passing through the network. So those are, absolutely both ways you can do it. There are people now, you can find brokers that will charge you a fee,
really? Wow.
To find the correct Bitcoin or currency that's going to, match your lifestyle. So there's a big market behind it now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the benefits. What's the prime motivation? from someone that's producing Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, what is the reason that they're doing it, aside from the economic benefits?
One, I think it was a topic we already touched on. I think people believe in it. I think people believe in the blockchain technology because it's been around for such a long time. You'll find companies like Fortune 500 companies that use this blockchain technology to verify the information that are in their servers, right? In a very high level, right? So the technology is not anything new. It just has a different use case to it. So as people become more and more familiar with blockchain, they kind of understand the benefit behind it and the security behind it. It's better than me trusting. A lot of people have this stance on it where I'm putting my money into a bank. I'm trusting the bank with wholeheartedly that they're going to protect my funds. But we've seen Ben Bernanke, we've seen these pyramid schemes where people lost tons of money, right? Where it's like, I don't trust these banks anymore. I don't trust people to own my money. I want to decentralize my currency. I want to give the money back to the people, and I want that to essentially be the security for my purchase. I think as of today, there's probably been a few hacks on the network, but people, if they have their private key, they can easily recover their funds. So there's a tons of security behind the blockchain technology today. And I'll tell you, it's not perfect. There's revisions that are being done, but I think we're at a point now where the technology is starting to bear fruit.
And pretty reliable.
Yeah.
And I also had a question. So for those that are interested in investing, like you were saying that you can buy part of a coin or like the whole coin.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody wanted to get started and they're young, like how much can they invest if they don't have a lot of money? If they're like, do I have enough money to start? Like what are the ranges of prices you can invest?
I started with $10.
Okay,
I mean, you can start anywhere you want. I would tell you, you guys are young, you're growing, you're probably researching into Bitcoin. You probably want to get into it. And the only way I learned about Bitcoin was I just put my money on the line. It was my own money, so I had a different feeling about it. So I would tell you, if you want to experiment, it's very easy to download an app to your phone.
Okay.
You can associate a bank account to it, and you can start trading with $10.
What's the bank? I mean, what's the app name?
There's Coinbase, there's Binance, there's a ton out there.
Binance.
Yeah. So I would advise you, just put a little bit into it. Play around. Obviously, ask for your parents' permission, and then start from there.
One problem that I see though is that there's so many different options to invest in. So you have like Litecoin, Ethereum, as you said before, Bitcoin itself. So how do you know which one to trust, and how do you know that it's safe? Because that's one big problem I see with that, because you don't know who's someone on the internet, everything is anonymous. Anyone can say who they want to be. But how do you know which one to trust, and how do you know that the other person that's saying that they're going to give you this, that they got it from the right source?
Sure. So that's the beauty behind cryptocurrency, right? There's a mathematical algorithm that miners are verifying that's passing through the network. So it's a one-time transaction, right? So once the monies leave an original source, and essentially it hits a network, there's miners that are verifying this code. There's a hash that's encrypted that they're encrypting, and they're reading that code, and then it gets to a final source. And that's kind of where the verification process happens. So that's the security aspect to it. To answer your other question in regards to, there's another question you asked.
Oh yeah, so how do you know that where it's coming from? If it's a good source of money, this can go into halal and haram. How do you know where it's coming from specifically? How they invested the money, where they got it from in the first place.
So you can have user IDs online, so you can know where your monies are coming from. I would always verify the source that's coming from a correct place. There's a lot of places where you can check a hash code or a set of code online to verify the source. I would definitely use exchanges that have been well established, like Binance and Coinbase. They're well established exchanges, and there's a verification process that happens behind each and every individual that joins the network. Okay. So your ID gets checked, your bank account gets checked, your hash code gets checked. So just like a bank would, right? You would give them your personal information to ensure the transaction's secure. The other question that you asked, I believe, was based on the type of coins that I should invest in. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin have been around for quite a while. Yeah. So there's an established base of customers or users that are using that coin. So that's essentially, for a beginner, that's where I would start to invest. And then you can do your research as far as how many other people are adopting different coins, and then go from there and see, and just feel it out, because it's so new.
So I love the discussion that we're having, but ultimately we all know that cryptocurrency is a very broad topic and it covers a lot of different bases. And so while we've defined the terms to some extent, I think it's time now to really understand the relevance that it has to Muslim American youth. And talking about that specifically is talking about how is it viewed in an Islamic lens. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that after we're back from another quick break by our sponsor.
Since August 25th of this year, over 600,000 individuals have fled from Myanmar into bordering Bangladesh. They've witnessed crimes against humanity. The United Nations calls what happened in Myanmar textbook definition of genocide, textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. We've been here for the last few months, providing them with access to clean drinking water, providing them with access to primary healthcare services, helping them build their shelters, as well as giving them weekly food distributions. We can't fathom what they've witnessed. The ones that have arrived into Bangladesh are the lucky ones. They're now residing in between the 22 to 25 official refugee camps that have now been established. With your continued support, we want to secure their future. We want to stay for the foreseeable future so that we can dig more water wells, so that we can provide them with more medication and more medical advice, so that we can help build more shelters, especially with the winter coming and the cold setting in. Please visit our website to find out more about our work and to support us with your generous donations. Thank you.
So as you see here, there's a well being built. The locals used to walk miles to get clean, safe water, but now it's getting built right in front of the doorstep, which I think is a great thing. And you can see the women are out here, the men are out here, they're very happy to have this here. Please donate generously to this fantastic thirst relief project by Penny Appeal. Donate online.
Ridiculous. What is this? This is not something that is physical, you can touch. It's not a coin. It's not a banknote. It's not a deed. It's not a certificate. It is something that is virtual. It all is dependent on the peer-to-peer, the blockchain, and the logarithms that govern it, which is known to only a handful of people who control it and who are anonymous, and no one knows who they are. You cannot complain about it. You cannot pretend that there is justice or injustice. There's no one to talk to. So it is as if you're throwing your money in a vacuum, not knowing whether it will increase or decrease, but most people don't care. Also, any cyber attack, any virus attack or threat can threaten your wealth and can take this currency, so-called currency, down to the ground. So there is a lot of ambiguity. If I have dollars and you have euros, we would like to exchange. This is permissible in Islam with one condition, and that is that it has to be hand to hand. It has to be physical. I cannot say, okay, I accept this transaction, I'll give you the money after half an hour. This is haram. The transaction is void. It has to be simultaneous, give and take. In virtual currencies, you don't have this. The transfer is not simultaneous, and you don't have anything physical to hold on to. So this kind of ambiguity makes Bitcoin haram, in my opinion. And Muslims should not get involved in such dubious transactions simply to make a quick buck, to make a quick profit. This is not an Islamic concept, and one of the reasons of a lot of transactions being prohibited in Islam is the concept of gharar, ambiguity, that there might be some sort of deceit or ambiguity in knowing the end result of this transaction. Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to Deen Talk, where we are talking about cryptocurrency and its impacts. So now we're moving on to impacts, and you should have just seen Jeddah-based scholar Asim Al-Hakim talk a little bit about his views and his religious interpretation of what cryptocurrency is. Now, we may or may not agree with that, but ultimately it makes an important point. What is the religious implication, and how do we as young Muslims navigate that? And so let's hear a little bit of what our co-hosts and our guests have to say about that view of things.
The first thing I noticed, he was saying that, you know, I mean, he made some points in there, but like he was saying that the previous scholars never mentioned it, but I just wanted to say like that they were in the past and like we're in the future now, and technology is very vital within our livelihood. So what the scholars have not wrote, like it wasn't back then, so it kind of like just developed recently in the last couple of, you know, years that just passed, couple of years. So just because the scholars haven't written it doesn't mean that it's not valid. And also Islam is always progressing. We're in a whole nother time. If you're just stuck on the past, then if this is, say that Bitcoin is the only way we are actually working like for money, how could like we all be like transparent and not actually be able to trade if we're just like the scholars didn't mention it? We have to still stay hip to the times, make sure it's vital and everything. But yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest things that, you know, just because the scholars hasn't said it doesn't mean that you can't do it, because we're moving into different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you know, Prophet ﷺ says that knowledge is the weapon of the believer. Dua is the weapon of the believer. So I think anyone that really wants to start investing in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, should definitely do their research. I'm not an expert. You know, I didn't know the stance if it was halal or haram when I first started mining and you know, investing in Bitcoin. I even still think today there's a lot of ambiguity to it. We should continue to do our research and really talk to our scholars and really talk to people that are in the know. Like, you know, if I, for example, you know, I wouldn't go to, you know, the dude down the street to get a diagnosis if I had cancer or not, right? I'd go to a doctor. Same applies with Bitcoin. I'd go to people that understand the, you know, how the monies are traded and see what their thoughts are, because they have more knowledge than I do. So I would, you know, be remiss to say, you know, I don't want to say that the currency is halal or haram. I know in Indonesia they have passed cryptocurrency as a form of currency, and it's traded in a majority Muslim country. So to your point, you know, the progressive Muslims, they are adopting this technology. And so I believe, you know, we should look at that, and we should also look at the, you know, the other side of the coin.
That's a good point. I think that one of the things that the scholar himself said was that this requires analysis from economists, sheikhs, all of these people, and then he offered his opinion on it, which was interesting because, I mean, he's saying one thing and he kind of did another, but, you know, forgetting that kind of incoherency, I think the main thing that he said about the economist is that it takes the common man, the common person, and a shayukh to sit down and be like, okay, what are the benefits, what are the harms, you know, what's right, what's wrong, and actually determine and come to a clearer solution on that. Mm-hmm. And that would be the ideal circumstance. But obviously, in the world that we live in, cryptocurrency is changing, redefining itself, at least from what I heard you speak about. And I think that at the end of the day, it's more of a personal decision. Mm-hmm. And it requires each of us to kind of be aware. And, you know, that's a goal of this show as well, just to be aware, just to, you know, be aware of the challenges and make the opinion for yourself and understand the facts. And so I think the major step is for shayukh in general to offer more factual data and offer more analysis, and then make that a decision that comes from a debate or a discussion, not one that comes from, you know, this is ridiculous. Because yes, it may seem ridiculous personally, but ultimately there are Muslims that are doing it and others that are not, and we don't necessarily look at them in a negative light either.
Right, but I feel like it's more of opinionated, because to him it's ridiculous, but like to us, we're like, this is cool, we know this is like, we feel comfortable, like we're on that hustle grind and stuff, so like it makes total sense to us, like some of the millennials, but like maybe to an older generation, they're like, I don't know what this is, and they just don't know what's going on, so they're kind of maybe scared of it or something.
Yeah, so like as a teenager, right, in the United States, I play video games, I do all this stuff, want to buy that battle pass or something. When we go in, right, you got to pay real money, but it's all going digital. You don't know where it's going to end up. You don't know where it's going to go there. So in these processes, we're already kind of in it, because we can't really avoid it. Your credit card, you don't know where that money's going to go from, that ATM, where it's going to be wired to. So in that process, like, they may say that, oh, we can avoid it if we can, but it's already kind of integrated. As younger generations, we already have this technology like bombarding us on all sides, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but I think it's way too far to actually go back without technology, because it's already integrated. We have our phones, laptops with us all the time. Can't live without it.
Yeah. I tell you, my last bit of advice here is there's no get-rich scheme, or I'll tell you, you guys are young, you know, keep the hustle alive, work hard, become, you know, specialists in something, and, you know, that's ultimately going to be, you know, what's going to provide financial success to you, you know. So that'd be my advice. Don't think Bitcoin is the end-all, be-all. It may be something that, you know, you may want to invest in and dabble in, but, you know, you guys are all going to school, continue to study hard and, you know, get the real paper, you know, inshallah. So
Inshallah.
I'm sure you guys will progress, inshallah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good luck.
I definitely think that that's important advice. And, you know, going on, because, you know, we have to talk about, you know, the different aspects of this. I think that what economists say, even if many of them may or may not disagree, and, you know, we can talk a little bit about that too, but diversify. So that's part of it, right? Diversification. Like, if you diversify your Bitcoins with your, you know, SAEs and all of that, so that, you know, you can kind of make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it definitely has like relation to basic investment, whether you're buying like stocks or bonds and stuff like that. Of just like, I think the ideology is like not just put in one, like to kind of like spread it out. What you guys are talking about, like diversifying it. But I just think that we just should notice within the scholars and things like that, like just because you don't know it doesn't mean it's wrong. And like how you were giving so much more research and explanation, it actually does make sense once you really know what's going on. But if you just hear it and you don't want to know what's going on, you might be afraid of
You'll
it.
always be blind to it.
And in the end, it's all Allahu A'lam. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know where it's going to take us. And we just have to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and realize that that's all we can do.
Yeah.
All right, so I think this was a great discussion, and we are going to be having another wrap-up segment right after this one. But before we do that, let's go to the break and just, again, remember how important it is to have these discussions and to really make these decisions based on an educated choice, but make these decisions on our own based on the knowledge that we receive. So let's go to the break, and we'll be back with another segment to wrap it all up.
Since August 25th of this year, over 600,000 individuals have fled from Myanmar into bordering Bangladesh. They've witnessed crimes against humanity. The United Nations calls what happened in Myanmar textbook definition of genocide, textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. We've been here for the last few months, providing them with access to clean drinking water, providing them with access to primary healthcare services, helping them build their shelters, as well as giving them weekly food distributions. We can't fathom what they've witnessed. The ones that have arrived into Bangladesh are the lucky ones. They're now residing in between the 22 to 25 official refugee camps that have now been established. With your continued support, we want to secure their future. We want to stay for the foreseeable future so that we can dig more water wells, so that we can provide them with more medication and more medical advice, so that we can help build more shelters, especially with the winter coming and the cold setting in. Please visit our website to find out more about our work and to support us with your generous donations. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back again to Deen Talk, where we are still talking about cryptocurrency. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about why, right? So why are scholars actually saying that cryptocurrency is or can be considered, negative, all of these different things?
Mm-hmm. So the traditional sense, or the Islamic approach to what money is something that has an intrinsic value, like gold. You can melt it down, you can create things with gold. Same applies to silver. Rice, barley, wheat, they have a long shelf life, and people can consume these things. In the traditional sense, that's what money is. Today, what the argument is Bitcoin's intangible. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. And I believe that's what Sheikh Asim's argument was. But it's again, to me, it's a slippery slope. I'm no scholar on this, but I do see a value in the currency in one sense, where there is a physicality to it. There is a network that is backing this, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation. So for me to, say that cryptocurrency is completely haram, I would say that on false pretenses. I couldn't really allude to that conclusion. So again, that's a topic you touched on earlier. Was we need to definitely have that conversation with our shuyukh about if this currency here itself is considered a form of currency, if it's halal or haram.
Right.
So another thing that a lot of scholars bring up is that you don't, as we mentioned before, you don't know where it's coming from. Like if it was blackmail money or something like that, where the lottery money or something like that they're investing in here. Mm-hmm. So what do you say on that, the Islamic aspect of that?
So today you can actually see where the transactions are coming from based off the crypto ledger. So you can actually go into the
know if it's lottery money. It would tell you someone invested.
Well, you would never know, right?
Okay,
you honestly never know. Even today, you don't know where the money's coming from.
That's true.
Right? You can go into any store and you don't know if that money was came from gambling or if it came from anywhere, right? So it's ambiguous still in its nature. Our money that resides in the banks, that money could have touched interest at one point, and the banks issues us that money to hold, right? So we can go that very, very that we can go that approach. We can be very extreme with our approach, but I think with Islam we have to find a balance, and absolutely think about if the benefit outweighs the I guess the I don't know how to say the benefit, if the benefit outweighs the negativity with the currency, right? So does this make our life easier to transfer money with Bitcoin, or does it not? Are there more people that are suffering because of the use of Bitcoin or not? Is there security backed by Bitcoin, or is there not enough security backed by Bitcoin? I think these are the questions I would have for scholars, and I would again resort to them and people that are experts in finance to help us answer those questions.
Excellent. So thank you again for coming and joining us for this discussion. I'd ask you for some
having me.
Final parting advice, and I hope that we can continue to have these amazing discussions and continue to talk about these topics that are not going away and only going to continue to grow as we grow older or grow younger, depending on who you are.
Absolutely. So when I was your guys' age, I was never thinking about this type of stuff. I was never thinking about cryptocurrency, so you guys are ahead of the curve here. So I commend you and applaud your efforts. I know a lot of you are in school, so as I mentioned earlier, keep studying hard. Work hard, go to school, get a good job, and that's what it's all about. Increase your iman, and I think Allah will unveil things to you. So if your intentions are good, again, I think your life will be easier. I think answers will be provided for you if you're sincere about it. So keep working hard. Again, it's not a get-rich scheme here with Bitcoin, but I would definitely tell you to educate yourself. Maybe invest a couple dollars here and there, and get familiar with the concept. So.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having
again,
me.
And inshallah, we'll see you soon.
Inshallah. Thank you for having me. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.